Hi guys, welcome back. Chrissy here with Make a Living Acting Anywhere. And today we're talking about improv and the 10 basic rules of improv. And the reason that you might want to know about improv is because it is one of the ways that you can make a living acting right where you are without moving to LA, Chicago, and any other place where all the big people who live, where other people move to become the big people. But if you just want to make your living at home in your own neighborhood, improv and improv troops is one way you can do that. So rule number 1 in improv is yes and. Yes and means that you agree to be in the scene. So it means that you agree with your partners and what they're saying. If somebody says you're floating down the river, then you are floating down the river. You don't want to be like, well, if we're floating down the river, why am I standing on land? Well, that's not funny. It's also not yes and. It is, nope, I did not go with you, and now it's awkward and nobody knows where to go next. So just remember, rule number 1 is yes and. Rule number 2, you add some new information to the scene. So if you're on the river and somebody says, hey, we're floating down the river, then you add new information by saying, I see land. That's adding new information. It's not necessarily hilarious, but that's not the point of this video, is it? Number 3 rule is don't block. Number 4, unless you're playing the improv game where all you do is ask questions and you cannot answer any of the questions, you drive the scene by asking questions, you want to avoid asking questions. Unless, of course, it drives the scene forward. Asking questions in a scene that you're improvising creates a passive voice. And a passive voice in character-driven anything is just not interesting. Number 5, focus on the moment. Be here, be now. Be in the present. It's almost impossible to not be in the present when you're doing improv or when you're acting, but I've seen it done. You know, when actors go up on a line, sometimes that's because they're just not here. They're not right there in the moment. And when you are in the moment, you transcend time and space. And it helps you do improv. That's why it's a rule. Number 6, establish a location. You need to establish the place where you are. And this comes, depending on your improv skills and your improv troupe, this comes organically while you're in motion. You want to establish a location, whether you're on set together doing that by the things that you're doing, and you find each other kind of where you are, and then, we are at this location. We discovered it together because we're in the moment, we're paying attention, and we're saying yes and. Or maybe you have the audience shout out a location, they shout out a theme, whatever the case may be. Once that location is established, you want to live in that location. You will hear specificity in acting classes and in film classes and in voiceover classes and in improv classes and in directing classes and in anything theater related. And you are likely to hear that anywhere in the world because being specific is very important to driving a scene forward. And it also will help your partners paint that picture in their own minds that will help them develop even bigger pictures that help them create more drive for the scene. And number 10, drive it forward. Change what you're doing. Change where you're standing. Change the pitch of your voice. Don't stand and look at each other. Nobody wants to watch a scene where 2 people talk to each other. We never want to watch 2 people stand and talk to each other. Not in film, not on television, not on stage. Even though being on a live stage is primarily word-driven, an audience does not want to sit there and watch you just talk to each other. Do something. Change your location. Take off your hat. Put some shoes on. Do an action. Don't block is almost the same as not saying yes and. You don't want to stop anybody from adding to the scene by saying no. There's a great story about Joan Rivers where she came into a scene and her husband in the scene said, did you put the babies to bed? Or something like that. And she said, we don't have babies. She blocked him. Not cool. The scene goes nowhere. flunk. Thanks for joining. That was 10 improv rules. Let me know if you want to learn anything else or if you need me to expand on these concepts. I'll see you guys next week on a Wednesday when I release a new video. Until then, God bless, love each other, and take care. Be safe.